Trevor Deely, a 22-year-old Irish man, disappeared in Dublin in the early hours on December 8th in the year of 2000. So this happened essentially 23 years ago. He had been walking home at around 4 a.m. from his office Christmas party and had needed to go back to the bank where he worked to retrieve an umbrella because it was heavily raining that night, as well as to get certain things in order for his shift the next day on Friday. This kind of office party was happening on a Thursday. On the night of his disappearance, Trevor was captured on CCTV footage on two separate occasions. Once as he approached the gate of the bank building that he worked in, and sometime later in the night in front of a different bank as he was passing the bank as he was heading home on foot. However, an unidentified man wearing dark clothing was also captured on both occasions on the same CCTV footage. Police suspect that this man has played a role in Trevor Deely's disappearance. Trevor Deely was born on August 15th in 1978 to parents Michael and Anne. He grew up in Naas, county in Kildare, in Ireland. Trevor was the youngest of 4 children. He was very close to his family, especially his older brother Mark. Trevor went to study business at the Waterford Institute of Technology, but later dropped out. He apparently struggled to find his calling until he discovered a liking for math and had decided to take a computer course in Dublin, which he completed in May of 1999. Now, after graduating, Trevor chose to work in the IT department for the Bank of Ireland Asset Management. This bank building was located on Leeson Street in Dublin. He excelled in his new position and was well liked by his manager and co-workers. His manager described Trevor as almost the perfect employee. Trevor was reliable, nothing was too much of trouble for him. He was hungry to learn and he mingled well with everyone in the company. He apparently was a very happy guy at this point in his life, leading up to his mysterious vanishing. According to one of Trevor's closest friends, he was a jovial character. He was always in good form. He had a good head on his shoulders as well. He was doing well at work, so he had a serious side to him as well. He always took work very seriously. He vanished on the Christmas party, or let's say right after the Christmas party that his bank essentially threw, which was on Thursday, December 7th in the year of 2000. I just wanted to say I find it pretty peculiar that a Christmas party is happening on a Thursday on December 7th. It's kind of still far away from Christmas. You have a couple of weeks there.
And it's even worse that it's happening on a Thursday, why not Friday?
Exactly. And essentially what has happened was that Trevor attended the Christmas party with his colleagues, and the party started out that night with the group of people that worked at the bank getting drinks at a nightclub called Copperface Jack's. After that nightclub, the group moved to the Hilton Hotel for some drinks. Now, the night for Trevor ended at 3:25 a.m. that evening. At that point, the group of people that were celebrating the upcoming Christmas had already moved to a nightclub called Buck Whaley's on Lower Leeson Street. Buck Whaley's was just down the street from the bank building where Trevor worked at. Now, I looked a little bit into this Buck Whaley's club, and from what I was able to gather online, apparently it was a club where some questionable individuals would kind of go there and party as well. So we have like the local goons, the mafia members, the mobsters. They would also kind of go there sometimes. So that's something for us to think about. Trevor left the club at approximately 3:30 a.m. that night. It was very rainy, apparently a very stormy, rainy night. And at the same time, there was a huge taxi workers' strike. That means that taxis were not working that night. So the only thing that Trevor had left the only option for him was to walk home on foot. He was, I'm not really sure, maybe he was living like maybe a 20-minute walk away from the nightclub. But since it was raining that night, he had decided to first go back to the bank building, because in the bank, in his office, he had an umbrella. You know, it makes sense. You go pick up the umbrella because you're going to be walking for 20 minutes in the rain. Makes perfect sense, right? So about 10 minutes after leaving the nightclub, Trevor Deely arrived in his office, and he was let in by a security guard because there was security on the premises. Also, it's important to note that right before Trevor had entered the bank building, he was approached by an unidentified man dressed in black. After reviewing the CCTV footage, and we will have another look at the CCTV shortly, it looks to me personally that Trevor and the man had a short conversation, but the conversation, or let's say the video quality of the footage, the CCTV footage, is so bad, and this is like the early 2000s, that it's really impossible to ascertain as to what the two of them were talking about. It's just pretty strange. We're gonna review this footage in a little bit as we kind of try to, put our best guess as to what happened to Trevor. After Trevor entered the building, he made some tea, and he also chatted for a little bit with a colleague of his, Carl Pender. This person, Carl, was actually the only employee working at the building that night. He was on his night shift. Now, Trevor sat down at his desk and logged into his computer briefly. Then around 4 a.m., Trevor got his umbrella and left the office and started to walk home from his office building. As Trevor was walking home, he made a call to a friend from back in his hometown, I think, and this friend is Glenn Cullen. And he had to leave Glenn a voicemail because his friend was already asleep. It makes sense. It's Thursday, it's 4 a.m., so, his hometown friend is sleeping. Now, the next day, Glenn woke up and he obviously found the voicemail, but he deleted it because he didn't know that Trevor will go missing, so he didn't think much of it. But when law enforcement asked him what was on the voicemail, but we only have his kind of personal account to go off because he already deleted the voicemail. He said that basically what Trevor said on that voicemail was that he said, "Hi Glenn, I've missed you there. Just on my way home. All going good. I'll talk to you tomorrow." Glenn Cullen deleted his voicemail, and that's all we have.
Do you think it was real?
The voicemail?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
The content that Glenn said.
I think so. From my perspective, I don't see why Glenn Cullen would be lying about this. You think he might be?
No, it's just that we only have his word to hold on to.
Yeah, but I don't think Glenn Cullen is like a shady character in this case. Okay. He's like, I have no personal suspicions.
A friend.
A friend. Looks like a genuinely good friend. Now, after looking at the CCTV footage, the investigation was able to put together a timeline of events leading up to Trevor's disappearance. So the first very interesting thing that I kind of want everyone to remember here is the fact that the CCTV footage that was shown I want to kind of backtrack just a little bit. So when I said that when Trevor was caught 2 times on 2 different occasions on CCTV footages, so the very first time he was caught actually as he was entering his bank building, and then another time was about 10 minutes after he already left the bank. As he was walking back home, he kind of walked past another street where there was a CCTV camera kind of pointing at the corner of the street and he walked past that street. We have both footages, and we're going to be reviewing them in a little bit. Now, when we talk about the very first time he got caught on CCTV, when he was approaching his bank building, the same CCTV footage actually showed that the man that was dressed in black, you remember that man, who approached him and had a bit of a conversation as Trevor entered the building, he was actually waiting outside the gate of that bank building for approximately half an hour before Trevor Deely arrived. Yeah, he just kind of tucked into this corner and he was just waiting there.
Oh, that's shady.
At some point, he is observed having a phone call, like he was talking on a phone with somebody, but that's pretty much it. Now, as this man was waiting for 30 minutes, Trevor Deely passes the man, because this man was waiting literally like kind of on the corner of that building where Trevor was working. And he walks past the first kind of angle that we have of CCTV. And at this point, as Trevor passes the unidentified man in black, they don't seem to talk to one another at all. Trevor is actually apparently seen also talking on the phone. Now, the next thing that happens is that the man in black apparently kind of turns around right after Trevor walks past him. And at that point, he walks over to the main gate of the bank building, the same gate that Trevor would have to kind of go in to get inside of the building. And this was a very confusing point, and probably the most confusing detail for me personally in this whole case was that this man in black appeared at the gate first. So what I'm trying to tell you here is that there are, in the bank building where Trevor works, there are two CCTV cameras covering two angles. So there's angle number 1 and angle number 2, and they don't overlap, so you can't really see what's happening on the same spot from two different angles. They cover completely different kind of areas. So as Trevor walked past the first kind of angle, he was supposed to, just in a couple of seconds, appear on the second angle, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? He walks past one area and then
so he was just walking casually.
But he doesn't appear. He's nowhere to be seen for like a good 20 seconds almost. But the man in black appears first on angle number 2. Now, for a long time, I couldn't understand what was happening there, but the only explanation that makes sense in this case is that somewhere in between those two angles, Trevor, for some reason, stopped for around 17 to 20 seconds, potentially to be on the call, because he was already speaking to someone on the phone. So maybe he stopped in that weird position that's not covered by any CCTV footage for like, I don't know, 20 seconds. So the man in black kind of appears on the angle number 2 first, and he waits until Trevor approaches the gate. And as Trevor approaches the gate, then he has that 2-second conversation with him. Almost to me, it looked like the man was maybe even asking for some money or something like that. I could kind of picture the man asking Trevor, do you have a smoke, a cigarette? Do you have a light? Do you have some spare change? And I feel like Trevor looks as if he kind of turns the man down, as if he tries to tell him that, no, I don't have anything on me right now. At 3:35 a.m., Trevor Deely finally arrives at the gate, and he is let inside of the gate. Now, Trevor apparently spends around 25 minutes in the building, talking to his colleague, making himself some tea, looking at his stuff at work, you know what I mean? And at around 4 a.m., he exits the building. At this point, the man in black is nowhere to be seen. The CCTV footage doesn't capture him. He apparently had moved away already from this particular location. So Trevor, takes his umbrella out and starts walking towards his home. 15 minutes later, at 4:15 a.m., Trevor is captured on another CCTV footage, kind of on his way home. And as he walks past that second occasion when he's caught on CCTV, we have 30 seconds later a man in black walking past that area as well, as if he's following Trevor and as if he's approaching kind of on a good pace, like he's walking fast. Also, it was raining, so you could kind of imagine no one's really standing around in that weather anyways.
Is
So
this the same guy?
that's the big question. Now, this is a really good question that you're asking here, because law enforcement says that they believe it's the same guy. They believe, and I also believe it's the same guy, because I don't know how many people would be walking around at that time of the day, 4 a.m. Hey, we've been lately at 4 a.m. in a pretty big city. Here in Europe lately, it's deserted. So how many people are walking at 4 a.m.?
Homeless people or gangsters?
That's a good point. We did see some suspicious individuals this weekend, right? But that's a whole different kind of topic here. Police said that they believe that this is the same man who spoke to Trevor outside his workplace shortly. This man has never came forward to law enforcement despite numerous appeals over many years since the disappearance, and it is unknown what happened next. Police suspect that that same man had something to do with Trevor's disappearance. And that's the general story of Trevor Deely's disappearance. What are your kind of thoughts? Anything? Do you have any kind of reactions to the general?
Well, it's generally creepy. If it's the same guy from the first CCTV video, and after 25-30 minutes he's still there walking quickly to Trevor.
It was like 15 minutes later.
Oh, 15 minutes later.
But it's still, you know.
Still, who would wait that long?
Who would wait that long? And yeah, I mean,
Do you think it's the same guy or a different one? If you think it's the same guy,
I think it's the same
creepy.
guy. I think it's the same guy. And hold that thought, because I'm gonna show you some CCTV footage that we definitely have, and we're gonna kind of get into it a little bit more. Right before we do that, I want to kind of quickly jump through some additional details here in the case. When Trevor failed to show up for work the next day on Friday, his boss and his co-workers didn't find that odd or concerning. A few other employees were also absent, still hungover after the festivities of the previous night, which is immediately kind of weird to me, because this is a bank and this is asset management. I feel like they should, I don't know, just casually missing work after a night out.
It's pretty bad.
I don't know about that one, right? Now, his friends and family didn't hear from him that weekend either, despite the fact that he had made tentative plans with both of them, with his family and with his friends. They each assumed that he was busy with the other party and didn't worry about it. Like his friends assumed that he's with his family, and vice versa. The family assumed that he was with his friends, but no one really had any contact with him. However, on Monday, Trevor still didn't show up to work, and apparently at that point everyone was already expected to be back working. So Trevor's brother Mark received a call at work asking about his whereabouts, and his family got basically dragged into it. Everyone started to panic, and no one could get a hold of Trevor Deely at all. Now, the search for him began, and in the following days, Trevor's family and friends put up hundreds of posters, handed out thousands of leaflets, and went from house to house and business to business, inquiring if people had seen Trevor. His friends were able to obtain a CCTV footage used in the investigation. Detective Sergeant Michael Fitzgerald, who worked on the case from the beginning, said that he had never worked on a case where the family members were so proactive. The delay between Trevor Deely's disappearance, or let's say the delay between when he was last seen in the early morning hours on Friday and being reported as missing on Monday, meant that vital time had already been lost because he wasn't reported missing for 3 days in total. The police sub-aqua team searched the River Dodder and the Grand Canal but did not find anything. They were unable to drain the Grand Canal Basin as it would affect the structural integrity of the surrounding buildings. Trevor's sister, Michelle, said that she rang his phone a few times that weekend and after he went missing, and she believes that his phone rang out. So meaning that as if you're calling someone, you get like the regular kind of beeps.
Yeah.
You don't get that, the contact you're trying to reach is out of service. You're not getting that. You're getting like the actual kind of beats. And according to experts, a phone in 2000 would have gone dead within seconds if it had fell into water. But Michelle then again said that she's not 100% certain that it actually rang. But if it did ring, that we could, I guess, fairly certainly say that he wasn't in water.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. But it doesn't seem to be very concrete.
No, this detail is not concrete at all. A few other details that are worth kind of talking about here is that some clues of Trevor's disappearance may have been lost due to, for example, the US President Bill Clinton visiting Ireland 2 days after Trevor went missing. And that's important because before Bill Clinton went to Ireland, his security team did a sweep of the area where Trevor was last seen in the days leading up to Bill Clinton's arrival. Among other things, they had emptied dumpsters and trash cans, and some believe it was possible that Bill Clinton's security team may have unknowingly disposed of clues about what had happened to Trevor in the process. Also, in 2000, CCTV cameras recorded their footage on VHS tapes, and these tapes were often recorded over with new footage. So, for example, a footage would only kind of record 24 hours, and then the next 24 hours would be recorded over the previous 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So you never really have any kind of historic footage. You only have the last 24 hours. And it is possible that some of the footage has been lost due to that, where Trevor may have been captured walking that night. And the last detail before we jump into the footage is the fact that in late November, just weeks before he disappeared, Trevor had flown to Alaska in the United States. He flew on a discounted flight that his friend had produced for him due to his role as a long-haul flight attendant, which his friend described as basically being free. So he had a free trip to Alaska. He went over to see a girl named Janie, and Trevor had met this girl in Dublin during that summer while the girl was on her holiday. After Trevor went missing, 2 police officers traveled to Alaska to speak to this girl, Janie, who Trevor Deely had gone over to see before his disappearance. Trevor's sisters also traveled to Alaska separately for the same purpose. However, the trips did not produce any leads. Janie told both law enforcement and Trevor's sisters, I believe, that she tried to actually stop Trevor from visiting her. She explained that she was too busy to spend time with him, but he decided to come anyway. They didn't have much opportunity to hang out, but Trevor allegedly enjoyed the trip nonetheless and had a great time exploring Alaska. So also kinda, to me, maybe even seems like you could kinda think about it from a perspective that maybe Janie turned him down. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it seems like it.
Yeah, like what is your take on this?
It definitely seems like Janie turned him down, but it doesn't seem super suspicious.
No, like Janie. Well, that's where that whole suicide theory kind of plays into it, because people thinking about suicide in Trevor's case, that's the first thing they think about, because it's a pretty big deal, I would say. Just leading up to his disappearance, he has this big trip that he went out of his way to see this girl in Alaska, of all places. It's like traveling to the end of the world to see a girl, and then the girl warns him not to go there and they don't get to spend too much time, and then he has to come back.
Yeah, but then again, remember he left a message to his friend Glenn.
Telling that everything's okay.
Yeah, telling that everything's okay and I'll talk to you tomorrow. So...
Oh yeah, and like other than this is like complete speculation. We don't really know if that had any impact on him. But now, I would like to kind of jump to the footage. So let's kind of take a look what we have here. All right, so now we're gonna be jumping into a footage that we have of Trevor Deely. So I want you to kind of take a little bit of take your kind of attention here to the bottom of this footage right now. We see it's 03:05 a.m. at night, and this is the building where Trevor works at. It's angle number 1.
Okay.
You see this man in black? This is the man in question. He will stand in this corner for the next 30 minutes in a very drowsy, rainy weather, just apparently doing not much.
In front of a bank.
In front of a bank, in a corner. Now, see, this is already 30 minutes later. We skipped to kind of 30 minutes afterwards. The man is still in the same corner, but now he's talking on his phone. He's just having a conversation, clearly. But we don't really know exactly what he's talking about. And the next thing we're going to see is Trevor Deely walking past this kind of street. You see the man kind of moved a little bit out of the corner at this point, and this is Trevor Deely right here. So you see he has no kind of umbrella either, but he also looks like he's on the phone.
Yeah.
You see it? It also looks like he's on the phone, and he moves past man in black. Look what Man in Black does. Just kind of turns around and follows.
Yeah.
Definitely, like, to me,
there was an intention. It was intentional.
Clearly, right? I'm not crazy. Like, he's clearly trying to kind of go after the guy. He has clear intention to talk to Trevor. Or do something to Trevor. Right? Now we're gonna jump to the next angle. This is 34 minutes and 10 seconds. So this is like 50 or like, let's say 40 seconds before the thing that we have seen on the other angle, and this is angle number 2. And you can imagine that angle number 1 is literally like maybe a couple of meters to the right of this shot. So angle number 1 is somewhere here on the right side. So actually nothing is gonna happen for 20 seconds. So I'm just gonna skip through. Not to waste our time, but around this time, as Trevor had walked past angle number 1, you see a shadowy figure come out, but this is not Trevor. This is the man in black. That's why it was weird, because clearly Trevor walked past first. You remember that?
Yeah.
But it seems like this man somehow appeared here first. So that the only reason why is I think maybe Trevor was on a call with someone. He said, "Oh wait, I have to go inside of the building. Oh, okay, I'll talk to you later." You know what I mean? Like he was on a phone with someone, but he had to say goodbye to that person because he said that, "Oh, I'm gonna go inside of the bank." And maybe as the man in black walked past Trevor, he overheard that, "Oh, I have to go inside the bank. I'm here." So he knew that Trevor would go inside of the bank building. That's why he kind of stopped here. So, Trevor now, not on the phone, clearly, walks to the gate. The man in black immediately approaches him. Immediately. And look, they have a conversation, and almost to me, as I was looking at it seemed like the man asked Trevor if he has a smoke, or he has like some spare change or anything. Because this conversation ended immediately, like maybe like 5 seconds, 10 seconds. And after that, the man in black really weirdly just turned around and kind of rested his head on the corner. That was a weird move. And Trevor got inside the building, and then basically nothing suspicious happening. The man in black just kind of stands there, looks around a little bit. That's pretty much it. So 5 minutes later, Trevor already, not 5 minutes later, sometime later, sorry, Trevor exits the building. I think this was like maybe 25 minutes later. And as you can see, the man in black had already kind of disappeared somewhere. He moved off the camera. Trevor goes to the corner and opens up his umbrella. And he just basically walks for a little bit. Nothing kind of suspicious. Looks like he's completely, at this point, doesn't feel any danger. Like his actions don't seem like he's in danger. This means that the first kind of time he talked to that man, he didn't really report anything suspicious. He didn't even tell the colleague or the security guard that, the man in black is harassing me. So that just kind of tells me that the initial conversation that the two of them had wasn't really kind of malicious. So it did really seem to me like the man just asked Trevor for like, do you have some smokes or do you have a few quid? But that's it. And I would jump to that other angle. So this is 15 minutes later and on the way back to Trevor's home. So we will see Trevor soon kind of walk past. So you see, this is Trevor. He just walked past this kind of corner. And then approximately like 20 to 30 seconds later, we will see this very disturbing kind of...
This is the same guy.
The same guy, right?
Yeah.
And that's it. After this, Trevor's missing.
That guy is so suspicious.
You think so?
Yeah. Because if you go back to the first CCTV footage, you would see at the very beginning he was drowsy. But when he saw Trevor, it seemed like he was completely okay. Like he moved with intention, with purpose.
You're talking about this one, right?
Yeah.
Like when he, right after seeing Trevor?
Yeah. Look.
And it's almost like, you know what it is? It's almost like when we look at this man right now, he's on the phone right now.
Look, he looks like he's been just chilling.
Yeah, but what seems to me is that he's on the phone, and look how he, like, kind of, ends the call abruptly right as Trevor walks past. So he knew that Trevor's walking past. He ended the phone call.
Yeah.
Do you think that he could have been with someone on the phone call talking about Trevor?
Possibly.
And that he told whoever he was talking with, he told them that,
trying to confirm the identity?
Yeah, potentially, right?
Yeah.
Potential, or like he's like, in like a gray coat. He's about my height, you know what I mean? Young guy. And then, he's here.
That's a possibility right there.
Then Trevor moves to the other angle, somewhere there. Trevor's on his phone. Trevor potentially says, okay, I don't know who he was talking with, but he was talking with someone, and he was maybe like, okay, I'm at the building, gotta go, love you, talk to you tomorrow. Bye. He ends the phone call. Next thing you know, he kind of walks here. He doesn't even know that the man in black had walked past him.
Yeah.
And then immediately the man in black asks, no hesitation, immediate approach.
This man had a purpose.
Looks like it, right?
Yeah.
And then we have Trevor walks past, and then...
He's also walking fast. Could be, potentially, because he doesn't have an umbrella, or he didn't have an umbrella, but at the same time, it's like, but did he wait for Trevor?
Exactly. That's pretty suspicious.
Really suspicious. Seems like his home is pretty far away from where he was at, no?
At the point where he was missing, yeah, it seemed to me like he had at least a good 15 minutes left before that last footage where we see him potentially being followed by the man in black. So there are three main theories in this case. The first case is the drowning case theory.
Which makes sense because he's heading towards a bridge.
He's heading towards a bridge and there's like waters of body there. The things that kind of work against this theory is the fact that usually in that part of Ireland, bodies would float up to the surface. On top of that, his phone potentially rang, but we are not completely certain about that one. And the large umbrella that he had on him also has never been found or located in any body of water that day, and there was a huge search for him. That kind of works against this drowning theory. The second theory is a random assault or a mugging gone bad. His body has never been located in that busy area of the city. Potentially the upcoming visit of Bill Clinton had something to do with maybe the dumpsters getting cleared, but at the same time, people were checking the dumpsters. The special Secret Service was checking dumpsters, so if he was in one of those dumpsters, he probably would have been found at that point. The man in black has never been identified, and he definitely looks like a shady character, at least from those angles, right? And if he was innocent, wouldn't he just come forward?
Exactly.
Trevor Deely's case was all over the news, all over Ireland. So if he was innocent, he should come forward and tell police what he knows. And last one is suicide / willful disappearance. Things that are working against this is that Trevor seemed like he was having a good time leading up to his disappearance, and he was excelling at his job, and everything outside of that potential Alaska trip connection where maybe he didn't get to spend as much time as he wanted with that girl that he had met, and that happened like a couple of weeks ago. Prior to his disappearance, he went to Alaska. So that Alaska trip is like the only thing that kind of is, makes us question this. If it's a likely outcome, for me personally, I do think that this was a mugging or an assault that has gone wrong in Trevor Deely's case. The man in black to me seems like he had intentions to kind of do something to Trevor. I don't think it's a coincidence that he was kind of almost like stalking Trevor at night.
It seemed that way, yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I'm leaning towards the guy, the man in black. It's just way too suspicious for me.
Stephen MacKrell was last seen in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on July 30th in the year of 2015. He was in a great mood on the evening of Wednesday, July 29th. The 25-year-old spent much of the evening with his friends and few family members at Lucky's Tavern, which is a popular bar in downtown Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Around 1:30 a.m. that night, Stephen and several of his friends left the bar, but they weren't ready for the night to end. Although they each went separate ways to retrieve their cars that were parked outside of the bar, they agreed to meet up in the parking lot of a nearby Walgreens to plan their next move for the night. Unfortunately, Stephen never arrived at Walgreens, and his friends would never see him again. At the time of his disappearance, Stephen was living with his parents, Donald and Astrid MacKrell, in Fort Lauderdale, and worked as a professional poker dealer at Gulfstream Park in Hallandale Beach, Florida. Stephen was the youngest of Donald's and Astrid's 3 sons, and he was very close with his 2 brothers, Michael and Kevin. His parents started to worry when they didn't hear from him at all on Thursday, but when he failed to show up for work on Friday, they knew that something was definitely wrong. Astrid called the Fort Lauderdale Police Department and reported Stephen missing. Stephen's brother Michael had been at Lucky's Tavern with Stephen that night of his disappearance, but he had to work in the morning, so he had to leave the bar early, around 11 p.m. that evening. Michael knew that his brother Stephen had several drinks while he was at the bar and had told him to be careful as he was going to drive home. Around 1:30 a.m., Stephen left the tavern, Lucky's Tavern. He returned to his car, which was parked on the West Los Boulevard in downtown Fort Lauderdale. He was seen driving north on Northwest 7th Avenue, presumably heading towards the Walgreens, where he had agreed to meet his friends. It was only a short distance away. His friends waited for him at the Walgreens parking lot, but he had never showed up. The day prior to his disappearance, Stephen had worked an overnight shift at the casino. Then on Tuesday, he left at 4 a.m. in the morning and went on a 13-hour fishing trip with his cousin Sam Naverte. Stephen managed to nap for a while on the boat, and once they got back to shore, he was ready for a night out in the town after grabbing a quick shower at Sam's house. Stephen and his cousin headed straight for Lucky Taverns. While Stephen was at the bar, his cell phone battery died, and he didn't have his charger with him either. This meant that he would have been unable to call for help if he ran into trouble that night of his disappearance. It also made it impossible for detectives to use phone pings to determine Stephen's location. Phone records show that his phone was never turned back on after his battery died that night. Concerned that Stephen could have crashed his car into one of the many waterways in the area, the Fort Lauderdale Nautical Unit conducted several sonar searches but failed to find anything. Stephen's family was certain he wouldn't have disappeared voluntarily. He was a father of a 1-year-old daughter, and he absolutely adored her. He had also been talking about getting married to his longtime girlfriend. Those who knew him well told investigators that there was no way Stephen would have walked away from his life voluntarily. Stephen had spent his entire life in the area and had never been away from South Florida. He wasn't the kind of person who would take an impromptu trip without letting somebody know about it. Around 2 weeks after Stephen was last seen, investigators discovered that he had used one of his credit cards at the Pompano Beach gas station about an hour after he left the Lucky Tavern in Fort Lauderdale. It was the first potential break in the case, though no one knew why exactly Stephen would have made the 15-mile drive to Pompano Beach that night, because his original plan was to meet up at the Walgreens parking lot with the rest of his group of friends. Surveillance footage of Stephen from inside the Valero gas station showed the missing man enter the store at 2:27 a.m., around 1 hour after he had left Lucky's Tavern on the night of his disappearance. After he headed for the snack aisle of the small gas station store, Stephen was stumbling slightly as he walked and appeared to be somewhat intoxicated, but not enough that it raised any red flags with a store clerk. He spent a few minutes contemplating different snack options, then walked to the counter where he used his credit card to pay for the $6 bill. He spent a few minutes chatting with the 2 young women who were inside the gas station before he finally walked out into the parking lot. The following week, investigators announced that they had obtained additional surveillance video of Stephen from outside of that gas station. This new footage changed the course of the investigation. It showed Stephen standing next to his Ford Fusion, which was parked at one of the gas pumps. He was talking to the occupants of a small silver car, perhaps a Chevrolet Malibu or Impala. Stephen could be seen leaning in the driver's side window of the silver car, which was pulled up alongside his car. There was no sound on the video, so it's unclear what Stephen was saying, but he appeared to be upset. As the silver car started to pull away, Stephen stepped back and appeared to throw his drink at the silver vehicle. The silver car left the gas station afterwards, but circled back and pulled up next to the gas pump immediately behind Stephen's car. Stephen can then be seen driving away from the pump and pulling out of the parking lot, with that silver car speeding after him. Detectives obtained surveillance footage of the silver car's passenger as he went inside to buy something. They released a picture of the man and asked for help from the public in identifying him. From the footage, we can see that it appears to be a black man, shirtless, wearing black pants, exiting the gas station. Detectives admitted that they still had no idea what had happened after Stephen pulled away from the Pompano Beach Valero gas station. His license plate was never scanned by any license plate readers, indicating that he hadn't left the general area. They used helicopters, boats equipped with sonar, and divers to comb through dozens of canals and waterways that Stephen might have driven past. Each search failed to yield any clues of Stephen's fate that night. Alison McManus, founder of Guardians for the Missing, joined the search for Stephen shortly after he went missing. Her group, which uses sonar to locate vehicles underwater, has spent countless hours scanning different waterways looking for Stephen's missing Ford Fusion. They were able to locate dozens of vehicles, many of which have been stolen, but have been unable to locate Stephen's car. In April of 2022, the group Adventures with Purpose spent 2 days searching through different bodies of water in Fort Lauderdale and Pompano Beach in search of Stephen and his vehicle. They found several cars, including one that had 6 bullet holes in its driver's side door, but found nothing related to Stephen. Stephen remains missing. Detectives admit that they had no idea what happened to him and are keeping all options open. They do not believe that he chose to voluntarily disappear, but are unsure if he met foul play or was simply involved in a tragic accident. The identities of the occupants of the silver car seen following Stephen remain unknown. Although they are not considered suspects in his disappearance case, they may hold the key to locating Stephen. What do you think about this case so far?
Very interesting. I do think the guy in that silver car, that was the suspect.
That was the suspect, right? Definitely, let's take a look at the CCTV footage. We have 2 pieces of footage, one from inside of that Valero gas station and one outside of the gas station. So the first one I want to show you from inside. So this is Stephen MacKrell, and you can see he's kind of stumbling all over the place a little bit.
Seems like he's talking to someone.
Yeah, he's talking to someone. I think he's just...
Seen.
But he's probably just talking to the clerk of the store.
Yeah.
What else do you see? Describe this to the audience.
Stumbling around, clearly intoxicated.
Looking at the snacks?
Yeah, just seems like looking for a snack.
But clearly wasted.
Clearly wasted. He shouldn't be driving.
Shouldn't be driving at all, right? Shouldn't be driving. So that's footage number 1. I want to quickly jump to the second piece of footage that we have. This is from outside of the gas station. So it kind of starts a little bit abruptly. So this is Stephen's car.
Okay.
Parked next to the gas pump. This is the silver car in question. And you can see that the silver car is going to drive past, and you can see Stephen throwing something at the silver car. Look. So
Yeah.
kind of dinged it or something like that.
Do you think he knew the guy who was driving, or was it just random? Was he just beefing with everyone at that point?
I think it's real hard to say. I'm not really sure if we can even like make that kind of assumption. For me, it seems like it's a random event, like a stranger
Yeah, it seems like it.
event. So this is some time after. The silver car had at this point circled back, and this is the silver car now. And Stephen is about to leave the gas station. You see, Stephen kind of drives away, and then the silver car clearly speeds after him.
Yeah.
Clearly speeds after him.
Definitely tailed him.
So, after looking at this, what are your general thoughts?
It seems like the silver car is out for revenge.
Yes, for
Right.
having an altercation. This is the image of one of the occupants of the silver car. A shirtless black man.
At first, it seemed like a random event, and all of a sudden, it seems like that guy in the silver car is out for revenge.
It does seem that way, right?
Yeah.
I also want to kind of give you a perspective of the map. So here we can see that this location in, I guess, Fort Lauderdale
Yeah.
is the Walgreens that Stephen was supposed to meet his friends. And the Walgreens is generally located walking distance away from Lucky's Tavern.
Yeah.
So it was right there. It's literally like maybe a minute or 2 minute drive away from where Stephen had parked his car. But for some reason, an hour later, Stephen turns up in a gas station all the way up north in Pompano Beach, which is completely out of place for him.
What was he doing there?
Any ideas?
Probably just drunk, wanted to go out for a drive, or was meeting someone there.
Exactly.
Someone we don't know about. Shady? Something shady? No?
For me, if I had to bet, to me, kind of everything just seems as if Stephen was really, really drunk and he was not in control of what he's doing. So I could see how him being in that state, he completely misses the Walgreens and just keeps going and going and going until he maybe looks at his fuel gauge and he notices that he needs some fuel. So now he stops at the fuel pump. Let's remember, his phone is dead. So he has no way of contacting anyone. So he's basically just stranded there, drunk. Goes into the gas station, appears very drunk,
Yeah.
has an altercation with some people that are driving a silver car. And the last thing we see is him driving away and the silver car chasing him. He's
Yeah.
never been seen again. His car has never been seen again. And he's basically a missing person for the last 7 years.
Well, that's a bit extreme though. Like, it's a bit over the top that it seems like a random event, just a really drunk guy throwing something at the other person's car, and then all of a sudden the other person was following him, tailing him, and he was never been seen again.
Exactly. It seems like if it was foul play, it would really be over nothing.
Yeah.
Over just a small altercation. We have two theories in his disappearance case. The first one, it was a drowning or an accident, and the second one that Stephen was murdered by the people inside of that silver car.
Once again, too extreme.
Exactly. The theory regarding the drowning and accident, things that are playing into this theory is that authorities believe that it was possible that he fell asleep at the wheel and he drove into a canal. He was clearly intoxicated that night. And on the other side, the sonar searches didn't find any signs of him. And the murder, I think it's very self-explanatory. Stephen was last seen being followed by a silver car, whose occupants he had an altercation with just a couple of minutes beforehand. And the things that are working against this theory is that similar altercations happen all the time, but the vast majority of them don't end in murder. And statistically, Stephen was 20 times more likely to die while driving than being murdered in Florida by a stranger, believe it or not. It's difficult to make a vehicle disappear. The guy from the silver car, the shirtless man, didn't look like he was prepared to cover up a murder, cover up a body, cover up a car. So to say that he was murdered, I think it's easier said than done. So what are your thoughts? Do you have any what is your gut feeling?
I don't know. Both are really good possibilities.
Really good possibilities.
Yeah, because he was clearly drunk, and so any accident is just waiting to happen.
Exactly. But at the same time, he was clearly being chased.
Exactly, being followed.
Being followed by someone. So I think there could be a chance that maybe he was followed and he maybe ran into an accident. Maybe even ran into a water body. And the people in the silver car just drove away. So I think that could also be the case.
Yeah, I would understand if he got beaten up. He would turn up alive and he got beaten up. That's clearly understandable. But he just disappeared. I don't know, it's pretty weird.
It's pretty weird.
Yeah.
So I'm also for me personally, I'm still thinking that there is a good chance that he's just in one of those waterways.
Yeah.
Just never
found.
Never found. Hopefully one day we'll get some more information on this case. But it's pretty bizarre.
It's really bizarre.
The way he disappeared. Very strange.
Yeah, because you would think that someone as intoxicated as him would meet an accident. It will be an extreme accident. Like he would crash into a building on a wall or against another car, but nothing.